Welcome to Mrs. Bays' 6th grade math video lesson. Let's look at division of decimals, and this is video number 5. This is for week 2, and we're looking at or focusing on decimal points on the dividend and the divisor. And specifically, this lesson is considering money. Please do not use a calculator, but you may use your multiplication chart. Let's begin by looking at our vocabulary. We have dividend, divisor, quotient, decimal places, and label. It is very important that we label money, and we label it correctly, and we're going to go over that today. Let's look at our division symbols. We have the traditional symbol, we have the long division, slash, and we're also going to look at the fraction bar today as a division symbol. So let's look at our example. We have $2 divided by 5 equals 40 cents. Notice the symbol. It's the fraction bar. So let's talk about our vocabulary. The top number in this fraction is the dividend. The bottom number in the fraction is the divisor. And the answer to division is the quotient. Now let's talk about decimal places. With decimal places in money, this is very important, money. If you're going to have a decimal point, you must have 2 decimal places. Money always has 2 decimal places. And when we label money, we use the dollar sign and it goes in front of the number, never behind. If we use the dollar sign, which we are supposed to use, we never use any words behind it. For example, the word dollar or dollars. Let's look at our first example. We're going to look at the standard algorithm. We have $5,263 divided by 5. 5,263 is the dividend, 5 is the divisor. We're looking for the quotient. $5,263 goes inside the division box, or in this case, long division symbol. 5 is the divisor, and that goes outside. Notice though in this problem that neither the dividend or the divisor has a decimal point. Both are starting out as whole numbers. Well, we know the divisor needs to be a whole number for us to be able to divide, so we're in good shape there. So let's divide. How many 5s are in 5? 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Now let's subtract. 5 minus 5 is 0. Let's bring that next number down. How many 5s are in 2? None, so that's a 0. 0 times 5 is 0. Let's subtract again. 2 minus 0 is 2. Let's bring down that next number. So now we have 26. How many 5s are in 26? 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Let's subtract. 26 minus 25 is 1. Let's bring down that next number, and now we have 13. How many 5s are in 13? 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Let's subtract. 13 minus 10 is 3. 3. That looks like a remainder. And we are working with whole numbers. So you think, well, maybe we should use R and a 3 for a remainder of 3. But wait a minute. We're dealing with money. And money, we need 2 decimal places, especially if we have this, where it looks like we're going to have a remainder. So with money, please pay attention to this. With money, If you have to go up and add a 0 like we've done in the past, you're going to add your decimal point. Let me do that in a different color to point that out. We need a decimal point. And at this point, I strongly encourage you, highly recommend that you go ahead and put in your 2 decimal places right here. What do we put in those 2 decimal places? Zeros. Now, here's the decimal point. We don't have a decimal point on the divisor. That's a whole number. So that decimal point needs to go straight up into the quotient. Okay, let's continue. Let's bring that next digit down. And now we have 30. How many 5s are in 30? That's 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Let's subtract, and you get a 0. Well, that tells us we can stop, right? Well, so far up to this point, yes, you would stop. But the difference in this problem is we are dealing with money. And with money, we must have 2 decimal places. We already have 1. We now need 2. So let's bring down that next 0. How many 5s are in 0? 0. 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract. And now this 0 tells us we are finally finished with the problem. And we know for sure, because dealing with money, we must have 2 decimal places. Now let's look at how do we answer this. We have $1,052.60. Here's our decimal point, that's the word and, $1,052.60. But we need to label it now. It's money. The label is the $sign, and it must be written in the front and nothing behind it. Okay, let's look at box division with money. $772 divided by 5/10, and we're looking for the quotient. Dividend, divisor, quotient. So using the box division or box method, we notice that the dividend has 3 digits. So we need to make our columns, our box have 3 columns. 7 goes in the first, 7 in the second, 2 in the third. The divisor, like always, goes out in front of this row. Okay, so now let's start dividing. Wait, we can't divide yet. We have a divisor that is not a whole number. We have to turn it into a whole number first. That means I'm going to move the decimal point 1 place to the right. But I have to do the same thing in the dividend. Well, right now the dividend doesn't have a decimal point, so we have to put it in here. But I moved it in the divisor. I have to move the decimal point in the dividend. So that means we're going to move it right 1 and straight up. And I recommend we do this first. Put it right in the quotient right from the very beginning. Now, what am I going to put here to hold this place? A 0. Now let's begin. Remember, this is 5 whole. How many 5s are in 7? That's, pardon the bells. How many 5s are in 7? 1. 1 times 5 is 5. And now let's subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2. Let's carry that 2 to the second column, and now we have 27. How many 5s are in 27? 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And let's subtract. 27 minus 25 is 2. Let's carry that 2 up to the third column, and now we have 22. How many 5s are in 22? 4. 4 times 5 is 20. And subtract again. 22 minus 20 is 2. And now the 2 is going to get carried up to the 0, so now we have 20. How many 5s are in 20? 4. And again, I apologize for the bells. Okay, let's finish. 4 times 5 is 20. And now let's subtract. 20 minus 20 is 0. Well, I don't have any other digits in the dividend that I need to continue working, so that 0 does tell us that we are finished. So now let's talk about how we write this answer. We have 1,544. And it's money, right? We're talking about money. So we need to label it with a $sign out front. Now let's talk about how else can we write this answer? Because look, it looks like we need to put a decimal point there. You only put the decimal point in this answer if you're going to show the 2 decimal places after. So I'll show you. I am so sorry, there's the bells again. Here we go. So another way of writing this is with a $sign. 1,544, and if we're going to put in the decimal point, we must also put in the 2 zeros to show the coins or the 2 decimal places. So this is $1,544 and no cents. Now let's look at another example. This is division with a fraction bar. We have $2 divided by 5. Well, let's review here a minute. $2 is the dividend, 5 is the divisor. So if I use the long division symbol, the $2 is the dividend, it goes inside. 5 is the divisor, it goes out. Notice neither one has a decimal point, but we're talking about money. 5 is a whole number. 2 in this case is a whole number. So let's see what we can do here. How many 5s are in 2? Well, none. 0. 0 times 5 is 0. And let's subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. Wait a minute. It looks like we have a remainder already. But remember, we are talking about money. So that means I need to put in a decimal point. And I strongly, highly recommend that if you put in the decimal point, you go ahead and put in your 2 decimal places. Money always has 2 decimal places. So let's fill those in with zeros. And if I have my decimal point in the dividend, and I don't have to move it because the divisor is a whole number, let's move that straight up. So it is now in the quotient. All right, so now let's bring down that next digit, and it's a 0, and we have 20. How many 5s are in 20? 4. 4 times 5 is 20. Let's subtract. 20 minus 20 is 0. Well, you might think that we're done, but we're not because we have another 0. So let's bring that down into place. How many 5s are in 0? 0. 0 times 5 is 0. Let's subtract. This 0 tells us we are finished. We know this because we are dealing with money, and money must have 2 decimal places. So now let's talk about how we write it correctly. This is $2 divided by 5, which is 40 cents. To label it, we have to put the $sign in front. Notice that I kept that 0 before the decimal point. That's representing our dollars. We have no dollars. But then after the decimal point, we have our 2 places. 40, that means 40 cents. So we would read this as 40 cents. However, we still need to represent that dollar section with a 0. Now let's look at practice that I would like for you to do. I want you to go to IXL, 6th grade. Please do U.6, and you should see the words divide money amounts. Please remember, I want you to get 80% to get full credit, And if you work a little extra hard and get 100%, you will get a bonus point. Thank you.